Welcome into the Ford Faction. We are here with Thomas Cox from MealFit, mealfit.co. Thomas, I've been eating the meal plans, like the little portions you eat for lunch, dinner. Right. Sometimes I'll eat them for breakfast. I'll be hungry when I wake up. But it has changed the way that I eat, that I exercise. Like, it makes me want to eat healthier all around, like even when I'm not eating those meals. And it makes me want to go work out after I eat them, or work out and then eat them. It's kind of changed the way I do things. But for you, that's a lifestyle. Yeah. It's not so much a meal plan. It's not so much meal prep. Right. I mean, this extends further than just eating food. And it's Time to Thrive with Thomas Cox. And we were looking at one of your blogs earlier this week that talked about strong like Samson. And so I was a little bit intrigued. Right. And so I go into it and I start reading it. And I got to think, first of all, you're a big family man.
Yeah, 3 kids and a wonderful wife. And so a lot of the things we do are I say consume. Consume sounds like a bad word. It's not, but we are consumed with our family. You know, with kids playing sports, and we're not huge into that. We only play one thing at a time. And my wife's a volleyball coach, and, you know, we've got our business, and I keep my kids involved in that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm a family guy, but I'm not because I have to be, but I am because I want to be.
Yeah. And so when it comes to being a family guy, when it comes to thinking about your children, obviously, and your business, there's a lot of balance that goes into that. And we'll get into that more as we thrive with Thomas Cox. But this strong like Samson, where did this brainchild start? Because you said you didn't take it from anywhere.
No, I didn't. I didn't take this from anywhere. And so we're huge prayers, number one. We think that prayer is a big, big part of your lifestyle and what you do, and it's not just something you do before a meal. It's something that you do on a constant basis. Like, you know, this morning sitting there praying. You know, there are things that everybody's got something that's their Achilles heel. Some people it's drugs, some people it's sex, some people it's money, some people it's, you know, all these different things. Porn. Everybody's got their thing. You know, I pray constantly about my thing, about the things that we struggle with on a large scale basis or on a small scale basis. Some are super private, some are not super private. And it's a constant thing for me, and something that we wanted our kids to pray into their lives, because we think that when they speak positive, they're going to be positive. And when they speak things into their life, this is what the things are going to be. And that's where we came up with this thing.
So, okay, you didn't find it online. Right. Did your kids go into helping you make it, like when it comes to the actual structure of it?
Right. Or? No, I think I said it and steal this from somewhere, but I think what we were talking about earlier, I think you pull ideas from other people, whether it be, we read a lot. I read a lot. And so I read a lot about people and them having routines and them having things that they do with their kids. Because when you have routines with your kids, it becomes a way of life. When it becomes a way of life, it becomes something that they can carry on throughout their lives. And so I wanted something that encompassed a lot of physical, mental, social, spiritual, and physical things in their lives. And that's where we came up with this thing. And so what he did is we pieced together 3 things that I think that are very, very important, not only in our lives, but in also our kids' lives. And so that's where we came up with this.
So if my listener right now driving in their car is thinking, okay, what in the world actually is strong like Samson? Give me the details. Okay. Hash it out.
So there's these 3 things that we pray with our kids, over our kids, and our kids pray over themselves every day at some point. My 9-year-old who's a girl, to my 6-year-old who's a boy, to my 2-year-old who's a girl, she prays these things, and maybe my 2-year-old doesn't totally understand them, obviously. And but
that routine, man, you're talking about that routine. Yeah. I was talking to somebody earlier this week, and man, he was struggling. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You could tell he was just a brother in Christ who was fully devoted, and it was like he was so devoted he was lost. Right. You know, and he didn't have any routine or structure in his worldly life. Right. And just because you are 100% ingrained in your spiritual life, that's all you care about, you can't lose sight of your worldly, like, secular life, you know. And it felt like, you know, there was no routine there, so there was nothing for him to grasp over here. And so that's why he built his foundation on sand. Right. And I was talking to him, and I showed him our podcast we did, talking about the morning routine.
Right.
I was like, dude, it can be as simple as you want
super
to.
simple.
I was like, dude, just get in some sort of routine.
Yeah.
But when it comes to that, because after we talked about it, I'm a huge believer in, look, we're going to do the same thing. Like, I've started doing like a nightly routine before bed too.
Absolutely.
Because like I'm getting into a system to where it's easy, like it's clicking fast for me, because I make so many thoughts and decisions and talk so much during the day that is easy for me.
Yeah.
Now, I hate to interrupt you, but continue.
No.
I just wanted to back your routine
here's
point.
the thing, though. So you have to make so many decisions during the day, and so many of us do, that you need to make as many things mindless as possible. And you having routines is mindless, because this is what I do, this is what I do next, this is what I do next. Like, I sit down at night, and part of my nightly routine is I sit down and I think about the next day. Get things down on paper, because I'm a paper guy. But then also the next morning, part of the thing I do in the next morning is make sure that plan is down, it's in print, so that I can share it with my team. So, hey, this is what we've got today. So, and we go through that. But as many things as you can make mindless as possible is great. So, talking about our strong like Samson, so we take these 3 things that we pray over our kids, and our kids pray over themselves. And so it's strong like Samson. Okay, that's the first thing we pray. Lord, make me strong like Samson. And what is that? It was strong mentally, strong physically, strong spiritually. Physically, Samson was the strongest human being on the planet. Of all the people that he killed, the things that he did, just physical. I want my kids to have physical strength. People ask why I lift weights. You know what? Because I got to move refrigerators. You know what? Because I helped a guy 2 days ago put a freezer on the back of his pickup truck. I got to move a couch when my wife has lost something.
Functional
on the couch.
movement.
I gotta lift a 9-year-old that weighs 100 pounds.
Functionally.
Exactly. Out of a bed, because she couldn't sleep, and she wanted to go sleep in mommy and daddy's bed. And so when Jackie and I go to bed, I pick up dead weight, and I move her to her bed. I gotta move crap. I gotta pick stuff up, and so that's why we lift weights. So I want my kids to be physically strong, because it helps them in life.
You need somebody to carry the laundry basket up and down stairs, right?
Yeah. So mentally strong. The mental aspect of what we do, and the strength of the mental aspect of what we do, is so important. And you're going to think this is crazy. There's something I do about 3 or 4 nights a week, and I got this from my buddy Brian McKenzie, and it's more about controlling your breath and being able to adaptation to any situation, because you never know what situation you're going to be put into. And so I've got this old freezer that I have at our house, and I put it outside, and I filled it up with water. And for 2 days, I turned it on, and I got it to a certain temperature. And then I set a timer. I spent $8 on a timer at Lowe's.
Wait, is this one of those like drop-in freezers?
Like a freezer like this, like a chest freezer.
Okay.
You lift up. It's about this big. And so 3 or 4 nights a week, I get in it, and I try to control my breath. I try to breathe 10 times, nasal breathing only, and it's about 34 degrees. And so, but I sat there and I go, there's 2 things I do reasons. One is the nasal breathing and adaptation to any environment. But the second thing is, it's hard.
Yeah. An ice
mentally,
bath. Ice baths were awesome after football.
This is not an ice bath. This is not ice bath, because ice baths in college are 45 to 55 degrees. You're talking about 34 degrees. And so it's a different level. And so doing this, it's a mental exercise as much as a breathing exercise, because it's a tough. If I can sit in 34-degree water for 3 or 4 minutes, I can go make sales calls. I can get up earlier. I can do these different things. You're going to come over. We're going to do a show one day with this.
Oh, yeah, let's do a video.
So that's something that we do. So mentally, I want my kids to be strong. I used to train with Rich Froning up in Tennessee, and people ask all the time, he's not so much bigger, he's not so much this, he's strong. The part about his game that made him the 4-time CrossFit Games champion was the mental aspect of what he did. Mentally, he did not shut down, where so many people do. The mental game of these business owners that are relentless, the Grant Cardones of the world, it's the next level. And if my kids can be strong mentally and not shut down when things start going wrong, they can reach the next level of whatever it is they're doing. Like right now, mentally, I am having to push through so many things at work right now that it is wearing me out physically and mentally. But if I know if I can get through this, we can achieve more from a business standpoint. And I'm not going to go through those things now, because some of them affect people that are in the business, but there's a lot going on right now. And I got to be mentally strong. Spiritually, the obvious. The devil works on us in so many ways.
Relentlessly. The devil is
All
like
the
a
time.
tough businessman.
It is unbelievable. From the things that we struggle with, whether it be, like I said, I've got people that I know that struggle with drugs. It's a constant battle for them. I got people I know that struggle with other ladies other than their spouses. It's a constant battle for them. I've got people that I struggle with the greed and the money. It's a constant battle for them. So I want to mentally be strong so that I don't have to deal. I know I'm going to have to deal with those things, but when I deal with them, if I'm stronger spiritually, I can handle those things. So that's where the strong like Samson comes in. And the second thing is tough like Benaiah. So Mark Batterson wrote a book called In a Pit with a Lion on a Snowy Day. If you've never read it, I'll give it to you. It's wonderful. And so King David had a bodyguard, and his name was Benaiah. Have you heard this story before?
I mean, probably. I grew up every day the church doors were open.
Listen, this is not something that's preached in. This is not like Daniel in the lion's den. So King David had this bodyguard, and his name was Benaiah. And he talked about Benaiah being one of his mighty men. And there's this Benaiah's not talked about in the Bible a whole lot, but then there's section in the Bible where it talks about Benaiah, and it says where Benaiah went into a pit and he killed a lion, and it was snowing. Let's go back to he killed a lion.
Well, why is it snowing?
So he went in a pit because he went in a pit and he killed this lion, and then it talks about how he walked out of the pit. Well, if you're going into a pit with a lion, one of you is going to walk out, one of you is not going to walk out most likely. And so the toughness of this guy to be the bodyguard of a king back in these days, when it was not like it was just they killed people. It's just part of what they did. He was the bodyguard of a king, and he killed a lion with his bare hands. What? I want my kids to be that tough. I want my kids to have that toughness.
This guy is the definition of gritty.
He is the definition of grit. He is the definition of toughness.
His pad level is like 2 inches off the ground.
Oh, so much lower than everybody else's. A lot of these people are not going to
He's a fullback. He's a fullback.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. And so I want my kids to have that toughness. I think that toughness is one of the things that we don't talk about in this day and age that has to be talked about with our kids especially, because our kids are in an age where toughness is not a big deal because we give them what we want. I give an example. My 9-year-old is a motherly being. And when my 2-year-old starts crying, all she wants to do is go and pick the 2-year-old up. And I tell her, stop doing that. You cannot give them things just because they give you a response that they want. You make her use her words, and you make her ask in a non-whining way. Don't go pick her up every time she starts crying.
Don't baby talk to her.
Don't baby talk to her.
Now, why do kids always want to pick up other kids?
Because some kids have a motherly instinct to them.
Because they've gotten picked up, so they think
that they need to do that. Kids are going to do what you do. Kids are not going to do what you tell them to do. They're going to do what you do. They're going to say the things that you say. My 2-year-old says freaking. Where did he learn that word? Where did she learn that word?
Right from that mouth.
From me, you know. So they're gonna do saying the things that you do, and so you've got to make sure you're setting an example at all times. And so the toughness factor is I want my kids to be toughness physically, mentally, and spiritually in all ways. Physical is way underrated. Physical toughness is way underrated because women are so much tougher than we are as men. They have to have babies.
Yeah.
They have to have humans.
I am
come
so
out
happy
of their
that's
body. Whether it be their vagina or whether it be their belly. They have to have humans
get cut open.
Come out of them. Y'all, it is
I
can't.
I'm working on a car last night, and I'm taking the radiator hose that runs to like the coolant that runs into the engine, right? I'm taking the hose off, and I'm trying to get this clamp over the hose. Well, the channel lock slip off, and it kind of pinches my finger. And I'm like, and I'm thinking, my pain tolerance is one of I feel like a toddler when I work on cars. And I'm like, I don't understand. I can't even, like, stub my toe and forget about it. I couldn't imagine, like, going through something. Hey, how about just once a month? Once a month, you're just going to hurt internally.
It's unbelievable. So that's one of the things that we want with our kids is the toughness aspect and the wise thing. Wise like Solomon. Solomon, God asked Solomon, said, what do you want? I'll give you anything you want. And he said, give me wisdom to lead people. Give me wisdom to make right decisions.
Can you imagine that question? Because I immediately think, what do I want? And my answer would be, and this is why I don't have wisdom, right? Because if I had wisdom, I would have answered the question
Right.
that way. And it's like, hey, Solomon, you already got wisdom.
Right.
You answered
I
that
want more.
question. Exactly. My answer would be, I want to be passionate about something like I love, like
Right.
relentless energy, like something like selfish.
Right.
I would have never thought about, you know what, I want to be able to make decisions even better than I've been making them.
Correct.
I mean, like, that is incredible to me.
And so that's one of the things that we want to do is make sure they have wisdom. I'm a school guy to a certain extent. I'm not going to chastise and rip my kids if they don't come home with straight A's. I want them to know how to read. I want them to comprehend how to read. I want them to be really good at that because I know that we can get more wisdom out of that as much as we can anything. But I want my kids to be wise. I want to make wise decisions. When they walk out the door every day, hey, make good decisions today. You got to make good, wise decisions on a daily basis because your decisions affect you not just right now. They affect you days, months, weeks, months, years down the road. And so they got to make wise decisions. We've got to make wise decisions. Without those wise decisions, man, it's going to lead us down a path that's super, super bad.
So, strong like Samson, and then what was the next
Tough like
one?
Benaiah.
Tough like Benaiah.
Wise like Solomon.
Wise like Solomon.
And so as our kids are praying, they say, Lord, help me to be strong like Samson, tough like Benaiah, wise like Solomon. Because those are the things that I believe, again, super opinionated, I believe that are paramount in our kids' lives and in our lives. Because those, if my kids can be strong in those ways, can be tough in those ways, and can be wise in those ways, they're going to do it. Because those decisions that they make are going to lead them on a path that I think is the most fruitful for them.
And you lead by probably such an example, obviously creating this plan.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, that's impressive enough.
Right.
But you lead by an example of action, not just saying, hey, eat healthy, and then
Right.
you go get Zaxby's. You know what I mean? Like, you lead by an example to where you talk about physical strength. They can obviously see, you're built like an action figure. It's not just something that you harp on.
Yeah, I think that's like we said earlier. Your kids are going to do what you ask them to do, but they're really going to do what they see you do. And so my 2-year-old, I got pictures of my 2-year-old. 5:45 in the morning, she wakes up early. She comes outside. She sits on the weights while I lift. She sits on the stairs and watches Daddy lift. She sits there and watches Daddy rows. She loves it. She sits there 35 minutes. She's 2.
She's completely entertained.
She plays, but I mean she's 2 and
But
she's
there.
She wants to be out there with Daddy, and I'll do something, and she'll go over and act like she's doing sit-ups and burpees and all that kind of stuff, and but your kids are gonna do what you do.
How good can she talk at 2 years old?
She's great. I think, and people, I don't know, I can't remember my other 2, but people tell me she's got a wonderful vocabulary. She speaks clearly.
Really?
Yeah, she does. She speaks clearly, and so I think she does. She's wonderful.
I think I'll be off next week. She want to fill in for the radio show?
I think she could do it. Yeah. She messes some words up, like she says the word sparkling water. It's pretty comical. I'll show you later because it's.
She messed it up pretty good.
Yeah, she messed up pretty good.
Yeah, so it's a good mess up, not a bad mess up.
It's a bad mess up.
When it comes to your kids, and this is a little off topic, but you talk about you forgot about your other 2, how far along they were when they're speaking. Like, do you focus on maybe the younger one, and not like in a bad way, but do you focus on like where they are because your other ones have put it in auto drive a little bit? Like where is that kind of when you have 3?
We got 3, and you have to treat them all different. You have the hard part is you have expectations of the older one because they're oldest.
Yeah.
And then you have expectations of the middle one because he should know more because he's seen his sister do it.
Yeah.
And then you have the expectations of the 2-year-old where
it's time to go.
Yeah,
we're ready to be empty nesters.
So I think that it's just like when I was coaching. You've always heard you treat them all the same. No, you don't. You don't treat all your players the same. You don't treat all your employees the same. You don't do that.
Your stud quarterback is not getting the same treatment as a third-string defensive lineman.
It's not a matter of. I don't think it's a matter of treatment. I think it's a matter of how you deal with them. As a coach, as a parent, as a leader, you have to be at least 50 or 60% psychologist because you have to know how to talk to, lead, discipline, adjust everyone that is in your organization or your family. You have to treat Jonna, my 9-year-old, different than Tegan, my 6-year-old boy. Different than Georgia, my 2-year-old girl.
What kind of like differences or changes are like, because I'm sure this started how long ago did you start this, or did you think about this kind of plan?
You talking about these kids are praying?
Yes. Yes.
Lord, I think that I think we did it with Jonna, so I would say 5 or 6 years ago.
So like your 2-year-old, that's like all she's ever gonna know.
That's all Tegan, my 6-year-old, knows.
And like yeah. So what kind of difference could you tell in how they act? Because like in the later two, like your oldest one, maybe you could
Right.
tell a difference.
Yeah.
But they're so young, it's probably all they know now.
You can't though, Ford, because they're all different. And people say that look at my boy looks just like me physically. If he takes his shirt off, he looks like me. He's physically he's built like me. His long torso, his butt, his legs, the way he's built. My daughter, my 9-year-old, is built just like my wife. But yet their personalities are so different. And people say that all the time, like, they're all different. Well, they are. And so I think that just because they're raised all in the same way and hearing the same things and saying the same things, they're not going to be the same. Tegan is a wonderful little boy, but he has issues just like Jonna does, but they're totally different issues. Tegan is tough. Jonna is really, really emotional. Tegan is unbelievably tough. Jonna gets hurt and she's wants to wear a boot or crutches or whatever. I mean, so it's just a matter of them. You navigating with them through whatever it is they're dealing with.
Okay, so what kind of change in yourself maybe have you seen from, wanting to be strong like Samson, wise like Solomon, and mentally tough
like Benaiah?
Like Benaiah.
I think that I self-talk a lot more than I used to. And I got that a little bit from this, but I also got this from the guy that deals with Alabama and the Philadelphia Eagles, Kevin Elko. I got turned on to him probably 7 or 8 years ago. I self-talk a lot. My wife does a lot with her players. I talk to myself some through the day about being tough, about making good decisions, about getting in that ice, on a nightly basis.
You have to talk to yourself to do.
So that or business stuff. Sometimes I don't want to make calls, but I need to, and I got to, and I want to.
Yeah.
But I just don't want to do that. And so I think the toughness aspect and the discipline aspect of it has helped me more than anything. And I think the self-talk is where a lot of that comes in. So
it's just, I think about the plan, the kind of prayer, the kind of action that you put into it as well. And like you're setting your kids up, not just to, hey, pray before you go to sleep. Yeah. Hey, good luck with your prayers. I'm going to go to bed, watch Netflix.
Right.
And y'all, look, go to sleep, turn your lights off. Right. Like you set your kids up for success by like actions, by prayer, by nutrition, like every kind of step of the way. And so, I wish there was a different Thomas Cox version I could compare you to.
Yeah.
Or like the Thomas Cox that has a recliner.
Right.
Kicks his feet up too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. We try, because here's the thing. God has put us in charge of these kids. And if we don't do a good job and take care of our own house, these are the kids that are going to take care of us when we're older. But B, these are the kids that are going to be making decisions from a governmental standpoint, from a business standpoint, all these things about our world. And so it's very, very important to raise our kids in a way that is going to, lead this nation, this country, this world. We are raising citizens. And if everyone does a piss-poor job at raising citizens, this country and this world is going to go to hell in a handbasket. I hate to say this, even more than it already is. We got to spend time raising these humans. If we are selfish with what we're doing, we are not going to produce good citizens. If we don't produce good citizens, when we're older, our world is not going to be a place that's fit to live. So we have got to spend time. It's like we talked about earlier. The one thing that is the most valuable commodity on this planet is time. Me and Bill Gates got the same amount of time. We ain't got the same amount of money, but we got the same amount of time. And so I've got to spend time with these kids. I can't throw money at them. I can't, for God's sakes, don't throw an iPad or a screen in front of them. That's a whole nother show, brother.
Yeah.
So I got to
They'll have plenty of time to do that when they're older.
I got to spend time with them, in order to form them. And that's one thing I want to do more of every day. Like I try to throw with Tegan 4 or 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Just
so he can never say, Dad, you never played catch with me.
Well, not even. I don't want to check a box. I don't want to check a box. I want him to be a good, but I also want to teach him discipline.
Yeah.
And everything. And that's where a lot of this comes back to us.
Okay, so 30 seconds. I want to break down of the plan that we just talked about.
Okay. Strong like Samson. I want me and myself and my kids to be strong in so many ways, mentally, physically, socially, spiritually. tough like Benai. Toughness is one of the biggest parts about our lives that we have to get better at. We've got to get tougher physically. We've got to get tougher mentally. And we've got to get tougher spiritually. And wise like Solomon. I think if you're not spending a lot of your day on self-development and a lot of your day on getting better from a personal perspective, you're missing the boat and you're falling behind. So those are the three aspects: being strong, being tough, and being wise.
Love it. Time to thrive. Thomas Cox, millfit.co. Thomas, we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks.
Sounds good.